They don't choose the wrong people because they want to be hurt. They choose them because the pain feels familiar, because safety, real, calm, grounded safety, feels foreign. It feels too quiet, too still, too exposed. So they find the chaos. They know how to survive. The avoidant doesn't chase excitement. They chase what they can predict. And pain is predictable. Disappointment is predictable. Distance is predictable. Love that stays, that's the unknown. And the unknown feels dangerous. When they meet someone stable, someone patient, someone who doesn't make them guess, their body doesn't relax. It panics because stability doesn't match their definition of love. Their body learned early that love means inconsistency. Love means performing to earn connection. Love means walking on eggshells, hoping it's enough. So when someone comes along and offers love without conditions, it doesn't feel romantic. It feels suspicious. They tell themselves that the calm person is too nice, that there's no spark, that something's missing. But what's missing isn't chemistry, it's fear. And without fear, their nervous system doesn't know what to do. So they walk away from peace and run toward chaos because chaos feels like home. They end up with people who keep them guessing, who give just enough to stay hooked, who mirror the emotional distance. They learn to normalize. And the tragic part? They'll confuse that instability for passion, because when you've lived your whole life craving love but fearing it, the push and pull feels intoxicating. It feels alive. It feels like proof. But it's not proof of love. It's proof of the wound. They say they want closeness, but what they seek is a safe version of distance. Someone who's present enough to chase, but unavailable enough to never demand real intimacy. It's the perfect setup for their fear. Love that never quite arrives. That way, they can keep longing without ever having to stay. They don't realize they're recreating their past. Inside every new relationship, they pick partners who make them feel the same ache they grew up with. The one that says, love is earned, not given. Because that story is written in their nervous system. And until it's rewritten, they'll keep choosing the same kind of pain, just with different faces. They're not doing it consciously. It's not self-sabotage for attention. It's muscle memory. It's emotional conditioning. It's what survival once required. Their younger self learned. That connection comes with cost. That love is unsafe. That getting too close means getting hurt. So when they meet someone who makes them feel seen, their body says, no, not again, and it shuts down. This is why avoidants often end up with the emotionally unavailable, not because they want to be ignored, but because distance feels safe, because being wanted too much feels like suffocation. They need to be close enough to feel connection, but far enough to still breathe. It's not about manipulation. It's about survival. So they chase people who are just out of reach. The one who texts sometimes. The one who disappears. The one who's too busy, too distracted, too complicated to stay. Because if that person leaves, it won't destroy them. They already expected it. But someone who stays, someone who loves gently, steadily, without games, that kind of love asks for trust. And trust is the hardest thing for an avoidant heart to give. Every time they fall for someone wrong, they promise themselves they'll do better next time. They'll stop choosing chaos. They'll stop chasing distance. They'll stop mistaking silence for love. But then it happens again. Because until they face the wound, that tells them love equals loss. They'll keep choosing the pain they already know how to handle. You can't logic your way out of trauma. You can't simply choose better when your body still believes That closeness equals danger. That's why healing isn't about finding the right person. It's about becoming safe enough to be loved by them. Because until safety feels safe, they'll keep finding reasons to run from it. Avoidants often mistake emotional activation for connection. That jolt of anxiety when they text back, that relief when the silence ends, that heartbreak when it all falls apart. It feels like proof of depth, like intensity equals importance. But real love doesn't spike your nervous system, it steadies it. It's not supposed to make you dizzy, it's supposed to make you breathe. The irony is, the wrong people are not random, they're mirrors. Each one shows the avoidant the same lesson in different ways. That love can't be earned through control or withdrawal. That vulnerability isn't weakness. That peace doesn't mean boredom. Each heartbreak is a conversation with the wound they've been running from. Eventually, if they're lucky, they get tired. Tired of almosts. Tired of running. Tired of chasing what never stays. And in that exhaustion, something shifts. They stop searching for intensity. They start craving calm. They start noticing the ones who make them feel at ease instead of on edge. That's the beginning of healing. It's quiet. It's uncomfortable. It's unfamiliar. But it's real. They start to realize that love isn't meant to trigger you. It's meant to ground you. That the people who make you feel safe aren't boring. They're the ones who help your body finally exhale. So if you've ever wondered why they keep choosing the wrong person, it's not because they don't see the truth. It's because they're still trying to rewrite it. Through repetition, they're trying to fix the story by reliving it, by finding someone who looks like the past and hoping this time it ends differently. But healing doesn't happen by finding the same person again. It happens when they finally stop running from the one thing that's never tried to hurt them, safety. And when they do, when they finally choose peace over patterns, everything changes. Love stops feeling like a threat. It starts feeling like rest. They stop craving the high of emotional distance. They start craving the quiet of real connection because that's what they were always chasing. Not drama, not rejection, but the familiar ache of home. Now they know home isn't chaos, it's calm. And calm is love that's finally safe to keep. They don't wake up one day and decide to heal. It starts quietly, in the stillness after another heartbreak, in the silence that follows another goodbye. That moment when they realize they've run out of versions of the same pain. That's where healing begins. At first, they don't call it healing. They call it exhaustion. They call it numbness. They call it, I'm done. But under that done is something softer, a whisper that says, maybe it doesn't have to hurt this much. They start to notice things they used to overlook. The peace in someone's consistency, the safety in someone's patience, the gentleness in a love. That doesn't demand performance. It doesn't excite them at first. It confuses them because their body still expects. That love means tension, but slowly they start to realize that calm isn't the absence of connection. It's the evidence of it. Healing for the avoidant isn't a straight line. It's a war between what feels safe and what feels right. Because for so long, safe wasn't safe. It was suffocating. It was unpredictable. And distance felt like control. So every time someone tries to get close, their body still flinches. Not because they don't care, but because they've never felt love, without danger hiding underneath it. The turning point doesn't happen when they meet the right person. It happens when they finally face themselves, when they stop blaming everyone who couldn't stay and start asking, why do I keep choosing people who can't? That's the question that cracks everything open. It hurts to realize they've been building homes in places that were never meant to hold them. It hurts to see that the chaos they kept running back to was just the echo of what broke them. But pain, when faced, turns into clarity. And clarity, that's where freedom starts. They start remembering the moments their heart tried to open and was met with coldness. The times they reached out and no one came. They realized their distance wasn't arrogance, it was armor. That their silence wasn't indifference, it was protection. That every wall was built out of love for themselves, a way to keep from falling apart. Healing isn't tearing the wall down, it's learning how to open the door, a little at a time, with people who knock gently, with those who don't demand entry, but wait with patience. The avoidance starts to test that door. They start letting someone in, not all the way, but enough to see they survived it. And that's the miracle, because survival is what built their distance. And survival is what will teach them that love doesn't have to be a threat. They begin to see that safety is not boring. It's the quiet pulse of presence. It's the way someone's voice steadies you instead of spiking your anxiety. It's the way someone remembers what you said, not because they're obsessed, but because they care. The avoidance starts to notice that this kind of love doesn't chase them, it waits. And that waiting doesn't mean weakness, it means choice. They start to breathe differently. The chest that always felt tight begins to loosen. The shoulders that carried too much start to rest. They stop mistaking stillness for disinterest. They start recognizing it as peace. But healing doesn't mean perfection. There will be days they still pull away, days they crave silence, days they sabotage what's finally safe. And when that happens, they'll want to run again, back to what's familiar. But this time, something stops them. A small voice says, "Wait." And for the first time, they listen. They sit in the discomfort. Instead of escaping it, they breathe through the urge to disappear. And that's how healing happens. Not in grand epiphanies, but in the pause between old habits and new choices. They learn that love doesn't have to chase you to be real. That peace doesn't mean absence of passion. That being understood feels better than being adored. They start craving conversations over games, presence over performance, depth over distance. And that shift, that subtle rewiring, is what changes everything. Eventually, they meet someone different, not because the world changed, but because they did. This person feels calm, predictable, even. Their love doesn't sting, it softens. At first, it feels strange, too easy, too steady. But slowly, it starts to feel like home. The kind of home they don't have to earn. They'll still test it sometimes. Pull back, wait to see if it breaks. But when it doesn't, when it stays, they start to believe something new. That maybe love doesn't end. When they stop running, maybe it begins there. Healing doesn't make them someone else. It just makes them free. Free to love without panic. Free to stay without guilt. Free to receive without fear. They stop chasing the ones who mirror their wounds and start cherishing the ones who honor their peace. And that's how the avoidant learns to choose differently, not because they're cured, but because they're conscious. They realize now the wrong people were never punishment. They were the mirror. They showed what still hurt, what still feared, what still needed gentleness. And once those lessons land, the need for chaos fades. Because when the wound is no longer leading, love doesn't have to hurt to feel real. And that's the quiet truth they come to know. That love is not meant to wake your anxiety. It's meant to rest beside your nervous system and teach it peace. That the right person won't demand you to heal faster. They'll meet you where your fear still trembles and stay anyway. That's how the avoidant finally chooses right. Not because they found someone new, but because they finally became someone safe to love. They say they want real love, but when it's standing right in front of them, they freeze. Because being loved isn't the same as being wanted. Being wanted is familiar. It's a chase, a game, a role to play. But being loved, that means being seen. And for the avoidant, being seen feels dangerous. So when love gets too close, they retreat, not because they've stopped caring, but because their body starts remembering. Every moment closeness led to pain. Their mind says, this person is safe. Their body says, don't trust it. And the body always wins. They start testing the love. Little things at first. They pull away just slightly to see if the other person notices. They stop replying as fast. Cancel plans. Pretend they're fine when they're not. Not because they want distance, but because they want proof. Proof that the other person won't leave. Proof that safety can survive their silence. Proof that love won't collapse under the weight of them. But those tests often turn into self-fulfilling prophecies because no one can pass everyone. And when the other person gets confused or tired or hurt, the avoidant takes that as confirmation. See, love isn't safe. They don't see the loop they've built, a cycle of longing, testing, and retreat, a way of trying to be close without ever being caught. They think love will make them feel secure, but security, to them, feels like vulnerability, and vulnerability, to them, feels like danger. So they build walls disguised as boundaries. They call detachment independence. They call avoidance self-respect. But underneath the language is fear, the fear that if someone truly knew them, their need, their past, their shame, they'd turn away. When they finally meet someone who stays, someone who doesn't run at the first sign of discomfort, they don't know what to do with it. Their mind searches for flaws. Their heart scans for exits. Because love that stays forces them to face everything they've buried. The wounds, the grief, the softness they swore they didn't need. That's what makes real love so terrifying. It doesn't wound them. It reveals them. They start feeling seen in ways they've never felt before. And it's not romantic. It's excruciating because every moment of kindness brings up the memory of all the times they didn't get it. Every moment of safety reminds them of how long they've lived without it. Love becomes a mirror, reflecting everything they never healed. And so they panic, not loudly, quietly, through withdrawal, sarcasm, distraction. They might say they need space, but what they really need is to feel safe inside connection. They've never learned how. You'll see it in the way they pull away right after intimacy, in the way they go silent after opening up, in the way they look for reasons to downplay what's growing. They're not rejecting you. They're trying to protect themselves from the vulnerability of being chosen. Because being chosen means there's something to lose. They want love, but they want control more. Because control means safety. And love asks for surrender. It asks them to trust something they can't predict, can't manage, can't escape if it turns. So they stay halfway in, present but distant, affectionate but guarded. They want to be held, but only on their terms. When someone challenges the distance, they'll pull logic into it. I just need time. I'm not ready. I've got too much going on. But behind those words is one message. I'm scared you might love me for real. Because real love would mean being known, and being known would mean being vulnerable. And that's the one thing they've spent their whole life avoiding. It's not that they don't feel deeply. They feel too deeply. They just learn to numb it before it shows. They laugh when they want to cry. They leave when they want to stay. They act indifferent because care feels unsafe. The distance you feel isn't absence, it's armor. And under that armor is someone who's terrified that if they let it fall, they won't know who they are without it. You can tell they're falling in love by how conflicted they become, not by what they say, but by how they struggle. They'll try to create space, then miss you when it's quiet. They'll crave your warmth, then flinch when you offer it. They'll want to open up, then shut down mid-sentence because their heart says yes, but their body still remembers no. To love an avoidant is to love someone mid-war with their own nervous system. You're not fighting them. You're fighting the part of them that's still fighting the past. And until they realize that, they'll keep mistaking love for threat. Healing begins when they stop asking, "How can I find someone who won't hurt me?" and start asking, "How can I stay when someone doesn't?" That's the hardest thing they'll ever do. Not because they don't want to love, but because they've never felt safe doing it. When they finally stop running, they realize love doesn't demand surrender. It invites it. It doesn't want to control them. It wants to meet them. Love says, "You can keep your boundaries. Just don't build them out of fear." And slowly, their body starts to believe it. That's when something changes. The panic softens. The distance begins to close. The silence feels less necessary. They start learning that love doesn't have to mean losing themselves. That intimacy isn't consumption, it's connection. They start letting someone touch the places they used to hide, not to fix them, but to see them. And for the first time, they don't run. That's the shift, the quiet, invisible miracle. It's not cinematic. It's not dramatic. It's just real. The avoidant begins to realize that maybe love was never the problem. Maybe it was the fear of what love would ask of them. Honesty, openness, surrender. And now they see those aren't threats. They're freedom. Healing doesn't start when they stop running. It starts when they notice they want to. That pause, the one before the withdrawal, before the silence, before the shutdown, that's the doorway. Because that pause means awareness. And awareness means change is possible. They start to catch themselves mid-pattern. When someone gets close, they feel the urge to pull away. But this time, they see it happening. They feel the panic rise. The walls go up. The voice in their head whisper, "This is too much." But instead of obeying it, they breathe. They stay a little longer in the moment. Even if it shakes, even if it's uncomfortable. That's what healing looks like. Not peace at first, but presence. They begin to realize that the body doesn't trust what the mind understands. The mind knows this person is safe. The body still says, love hurts. So healing isn't about convincing the mind. It's about retraining the body. Each time they stay, when they want to run, each time they speak, when they want to shut down, they're teaching their nervous system a new story. Love can come close, and I can survive it. At first, the body doesn't believe it. It tenses, it shakes, it tests, but consistency rewires. Safety, repeated enough times, starts to feel real. It's not instant. It's slow, quiet, subtle. One text they don't overthink. One conversation they don't avoid. One argument they don't disappear after. Each small act of staying becomes a message. It's okay to be here. They start learning that love isn't about losing control. It's about co-regulation. Two nervous systems meeting each other halfway. Soothing, balancing, steadying. That's what love really is. Not adrenaline, not anxiety, but rhythm. The avoidant starts feeling that rhythm for the first time. At first it's foreign, then it's comforting, then it's home. They notice that the more honest they are, the safer they feel. Because truth doesn't scare the right person away. It connects. So they start saying things they used to keep inside. I need space, but I still care. I'm scared you'll leave if I show you too much. This is new for me. Those words used to terrify them. Now they free them. Because real love doesn't punish vulnerability, it meets it. They also start setting boundaries, not as walls, but as structure, not to push love away, but to keep it safe. They learn that love without boundaries feels just as unsafe as distance ever did. So they start defining what they need: clarity, space, respect, consistency. And this time, they don't apologize for it, because now they understand. Boundaries are not rejection, they're self respect. And self respect is the soil where real connection grows. The people around them begin to change too. They stop attracting emotional chaos. They start noticing who feels calm to be around. They don't confuse unpredictability for passion anymore. They start craving transparency instead. They're not drawn to games. They're drawn to presence. The kind of love that feels like an exhale after years of holding their breath. But this stage of healing isn't linear. There are still moments of fear, moments of old panic, moments they want to vanish. And when that happens, the difference now is they don't shame themselves for it. They know healing doesn't erase the wound. It just means the wound no longer leads. So instead of running, they comfort that younger part inside, the one who still fears being hurt. They whisper, "You're safe now. We're not in that story anymore." And the body begins to believe it. This is the repatterning, the daily, invisible work, the moments that look small, but are everything. Choosing to answer the text, choosing to show emotion, choosing to stay connected, even when it feels strange. Each choice builds trust, not just in the other person, but in themselves. Trust that they can be loved without disappearing. They start to understand that love doesn't take freedom, it expands it, because freedom isn't distance. It's safety inside closeness. It's knowing you can be fully yourself without being abandoned for it. And that realization changes everything. They no longer need to protect themselves from being loved. They just need to allow it. They start finding beauty in the quiet moments they used to avoid. Sitting next to someone in silence, letting someone see them tired, unguarded, messy. It feels intimate in a new way. Not fiery, but real. Not a performance, but a presence. And that's what they'd been searching for all along. A love that doesn't demand a mask. Now they see that what they once called chemistry was often anxiety. What they called passion was survival mode. And what they called independence was fear of being needed. They start to rewrite those definitions. Now chemistry means calm alignment. Passion means truth without chaos. Independence means interdependence, the freedom to need and still be whole. It's not that the avoidant becomes fearless. They just stop letting fear choose for them. They stop mistaking distance for strength. They stop confusing coldness for control. They realize love doesn't weaken them, it stabilizes them. Because real intimacy isn't the loss of self, it's the discovery of it. And as they continue to practice presence, they begin to experience something they never thought possible: love that feels peaceful, love that doesn't need fixing, love that doesn't come with a threat, love that doesn't make them ache. It makes them rest. That's the quiet transformation, not visible from the outside, but inside. Everything has shifted. The avoidant who once ran from love now walks toward it, not recklessly, but consciously, not because they need it to fill them, but because they're finally ready to share themselves. And that's what love looks like when it's safe. Healing doesn't end with a grand moment. It ends with peace. And peace doesn't announce itself. It arrives quietly, in the middle of an ordinary day, when they realize they're not waiting for the next shoe to drop. They're not scanning for danger. They're just here, present, calm, safe. That's how it happens. Not with fireworks, but with stillness. Love becomes simple, not easy, but clear. They stop trying to decode every silence. They stop needing proof every day. They stop measuring love by how much it hurts. Because now they know. Love isn't supposed to hurt. It's supposed to hold. The avoidant learns that intimacy isn't about proximity. It's about permission. Permission to show up as they are. Permission to need without shame. Permission to be seen without fear of being consumed. They start understanding that real love doesn't erase individuality. It deepens it. Because when you're loved safely, you don't lose yourself. You find yourself. In connection, they used to think love would trap them. Now they see love frees them. Because the right person doesn't ask them to shrink. They ask them to arrive. And that invitation, that soft "you can stay," is everything they spent years running from. There's still fear sometimes. Still moments where they go quiet. Still days where the old instinct whispers, pull back, protect yourself. But now they can smile at it because they recognize it. It's no longer control. It's memory. And memories can be held without being obeyed. They start choosing love differently, not for intensity, but for integrity, not for excitement, but for ease, not to prove they're worthy, but to share what they've become. They no longer chase the ones who trigger them. They choose the ones who regulate them. Because calm has finally become chemistry, they realize that love is not found in fireworks. It's built in small moments. The quiet morning conversations, the soft check-ins after hard days, the laughter that feels like home. That's what safety sounds like. Soft, steady, familiar. It doesn't demand attention. It earns trust. They used to think love should be felt in chaos. Now they know. It's felt in the exhale. When you stop performing. When you stop explaining. When you stop waiting for loss. And finally let yourself receive. Healing gives them a new kind of strength. The strength to stay. The strength to listen without defense. The strength to apologize. The strength to trust. And the strength to say, I want this. Not because I need it, but because it feels right. Love no longer feels like survival. It feels like partnership. Two whole people, meeting each other's edges, without trying to fix them, just holding space. For growth, for softness, for truth. That's the love they were always searching for, but couldn't believe existed. Now it's here, because they stopped running from it. They look back and see the pattern clearly now. Every wrong person was a teacher. Every heartbreak was a mirror. Every silence was a lesson in presence. The pain wasn't punishment. It was preparation for this, for peace. Now, when they feel that old urge to flee, they pause, they breathe, they choose differently. Because love isn't something that happens to them anymore. It's something they participate in. They've learned to co-create connection, not escape it. That's the quiet power of awareness. That's how they finally break the loop. They understand now. Love isn't a feeling that saves you. It's a practice that frees you. It's the daily decision to stay open, even when the old fears whisper otherwise. It's not about being unafraid. It's about being brave enough to be known anyway. This is where the story shifts, where the avoidant stops being avoidant and starts being human. Because underneath all the defenses, that's all they ever were. A human who learned to protect themselves too well. But now they've learned that protection without connection isn't safety, it's isolation. and they're done living alone in their armor. So they choose differently now, not out of fear, but out of faith. Faith that love can last, faith that peace can stay, faith that they can be loved without disappearing. They choose the quiet warmth over the loud thrill, the slow burn over the quick high, the steady heart over the unpredictable one. And that choice, that conscious, grounded choice, is what healing looks like in real time. Because at the end of it all, the avoidant never really feared love. They feared what love demanded: presence, surrender, and truth. Now they know those were never threats. They were the doorway home. And for the first time, they walk through it without looking back.